Welcome back, Freedom Street Garage. I'm joined by our head mechanic, Chris Esparza, and as you can see, as you probably already noticed, we got our hands on another Camaro ZL1. And Esparza, tell me about this thing. Tell me what the difference is here.
Okay, the ZL1, obviously, banger of a Camaro, awesome car. We stepped it up. This is a 1LE, so this has the full track package. It has upgraded suspension. You're gonna see some aerodynamic tricks that they did on this. There is a few differences and then some upgrades that we went ahead and went above and beyond on top of the factory upgrades to make this car just that much better, and it delivers. I mean, this thing is a performance monster. Let's just dive right into under the hood.
Under the hood, it's exactly the same as the regular ZL1, the non-1LE, but let's definitely take a look because I'm dying to show it off for you guys. Starting off, we've got that LT4, supercharged 6.2 liter V8. Obviously it's, you know, supercharged, really fast, 650 horsepower, 650 torque from the factory. And we've gone ahead and added this forged carbon fiber CORSA intake, open up the, you know, supercharger a little bit more, let it breathe better. So one difference I'm noticing with this specific ZL1 versus the other LT4 cars that we've ran giveaways on before is this one doesn't have the nameplate from the person who built the engine. So right here you see it's just got this LT4 plaque that's very subtle. No more Crystal Strickland, no more Jason Neal. Could that be because these are at the end of production?
It could be. That's a great question. I think I'm gonna write a letter directly to the CEO of GM. Who assembled this engine?
Who assembled? We don't know who assembled this engine. We need to know. Seriously.
But either way, this thing, I mean, I have plenty of faith that whoever assembled it, these are just performance monsters. They're super reliable, good old pushrod V8. And then one thing I noticed differently, even under the hood and transitioning the suspension, we have a different top hat setup on this car. And that's because the suspension is pretty much completely different than the regular ZL1. And they set this car up for more user adjustability because of the spool valve suspension.
Exactly, yeah. So actually the suspension's completely different on this car. The normal ZL1 with the non-1LE package, the non-1LE ZL1 has magnetic ride control. MagnaRide, as lots of people know it as, and that allows you to change the driving mode, and it, you know, it changes the valving or something in the suspension that allows the car to behave differently through the shocks. These are coilovers. They're very fancy coilovers with very nice valving that, you know, allow the rebound and compression to work as best as it could for a track car.
The spool valve technology is something that, you know, trickled down from like Formula One racing.
Exactly.
Although it's not like always adjusting itself with the computers and stuff, it doesn't need to, because the way that spool valve works, it just does exactly what is required as far as the dampening. And it's race-proven technology that trickled its way down, and it's a more hardcore type of shock and suspension setup, but that's what this car deserves, because this is pretty much a hardcore track car at this point.
And like you just said, you know, you're not able to change it on the fly. However, for the people who are hardcore and really into this, they're going to be setting the car up to the track they're going to. So I've seen this car with the wheels off when we put these Apex wheels on, and like I said, they're full on coilovers, lots of adjustability. The camber's all adjustable, like all of that stuff being adjustable. You're gonna have this thing dialed in, and you're gonna have it specifically set up for where you're going versus just, you know, doing what the car does from computer, you know?
And then so putting all that down, we have upgraded the wheel package. These tires are actually the optional upgraded tires. This is like a summer only tire, basically.
Yeah, so these Eagle F1 tires on this Camaro ZL1 are specifically made for this car. So these 305s in the front, 325s in the back, this is a formula that was made by Goodyear for this car specifically. And if you go online and look these up, it'll even say that. So we kept these tires and we put them on the Apex wheels because it's a great tire. It's made for this car, and I pushed it on the track and it felt, like you said, very confidence inspiring. And
like you said, we upgraded the Apex wheels. I think it's a good upgrade. We get a little bit wider of a wheel and a lighter wheel, which unsprung mass, the most you can reduce that, you know, the better it's gonna be for all the handling dynamics, the braking dynamics, just improves the car. Great wheel company to work with, so we were happy to put those on.
Definitely, yeah. The SM10, great lightweight wheel. I believe it saves about 10 pounds from the car completely. Not on each corner, but completely over the stock wheels, which unsprung weight, that's a pretty solid amount of weight savings.
Yeah.
Especially for a car like this that's already fully dialed in.
Okay, so we basically covered almost everything in the suspension. Let's talk about the exterior, because this car does visually have a few cues that kind of let you know that this package is a little more special than the regular ZL1.
Yeah, one of the biggest things is going to be this front end. So while it looks almost identical to the non-1LE package ZL1, coming up to the grille here, this part is a separate piece that's more aggressive in the front splitter.
Yeah.
You can tell it comes down a couple inches
That's
further.
a big splitter.
And the elephant in the room, guys, these dive planes. These dive planes are huge. They're, they're right in your face. Anyone who sees this car behind them is gonna automatically know that's a 1LE.
Well, yeah, visually it's aggressive, but all this stuff has a purpose. The splitter and the dive planes, I am sure that the GM engineers know exactly how much downforce that adds, how much stability that adds. The faster you go, all this little aerodynamic stuff, it's exponential, the benefits that it has.
Yep.
So
exactly.
This car is meant to push hard, and all that stuff makes a difference when you are at speed.
Yep.
So we got a little tow hook that's like required on some track days.
Yep.
So it's nice to just have it there. You don't have to worry about digging around in your trunk trying to figure it out. I think it looks cool too.
And then also carried over from the normal ZL1 is, we've got the flow tie.
The flow tie.
Once again, this front end, their goal here was to make everything hollow. And they did great. They did a great job doing that. But they also, the icing on the cake is the hollow Chevy bow tie. And that's just a great touch for this car, so it can breathe a little bit better,
I think you just like saying flow tie, huh?
Flow tie, tie.
But it is I mean, you gotta think like all this, if it was blocked out, like how many cubic inches is that, and how much of that do you add? If you're going 100 miles an hour,
exactly,
that kind of stuff adds up. And then in the back.
Oh man, can we make our way to the back?
Yeah, let's just finish off the exterior by talking about the back of this car.
From the factory, this thing has stanchions. It's 8 inches high and it's 64 inches wide. This thing is wild.
So do we know off the top of our heads how much downforce this puts down at speed? I imagine it's a lot with this design.
I imagine it's a lot. If you look at just the curvature of it, the cutouts on it, and the angles of these side plates, dude.
Yeah.
This thing's got to be a good amount of downforce. But obviously that stuff's not going to start working until you start hitting those higher track speeds.
Right.
And it's going to basically, what this does, guys, for anyone who doesn't know, is once that air starts flowing at a certain speed, it's going to push that car down and it's going to make the tires grip more. That's the same case with that front splitter being larger than a normal ZL1. That's going to keep those front tires intact with the road even better than, just a car that doesn't have that. So that's what all this aero is going to do. And another thing we've got back here is this MagnaFlow Race Series exhaust. It's an axle back and it's pretty aggressive.
No mufflers.
No mufflers. So basically what that means is the bypasses, they don't work anymore. This is race mode at all times. And I happen to have the key.
Let's hear it.
In my pocket. So I think we should just get a startup on this thing, hear what this thing sounds like, because it's pretty aggressive. Dude. It's pretty aggressive. What? That's really loud, as you guys can tell.
I like it.
I like it a lot. You can't really talk to anyone next to you when it's on, but it's a great sound. They actually made this exhaust, they handmade this exhaust for us.
Yeah, they did a beautiful job. Like you said, this is like obviously the aggressive tone. It looks great. I'm sure it adds a couple of horsepower. You're getting rid of some restriction there.
Speaking of horsepower, we dynoed this thing.
Okay.
We put this thing on MagnaFlow's dyno, and I believe it made about 10 to 15 more horsepower with their with their axle back on the car. Yep. We dynoed it beforehand, and we dynoed it after the exhaust install, and it made about 10 to 15 more horsepower.
Yeah.
Which, that's remarkable. From just doing an axle back, you get sound and a couple more horsepower. I'm into it.
Yeah, and I always like a proven modification.
Totally.
There's a ton of stuff you can do to a car that in theory it works, but you just don't know. But that's the advantage. MagnaFlow has a great facility.
Exactly.
You guys were able to do a proven before and after and see those performance gains.
Yep.
So that's awesome. You're not just doing things for the sake of doing things. It actually made a difference.
Yep. And it was cool that we could, watch the results,
Yeah.
Happen in real time, before and after. Stock Camaro exhaust. We also put it on their flow bench, and that stock ZL1 muffler is not only huge and heavy, but it restricts the flow of that LT4. So, you know, it's nice to put something that's more free flowing, and we love the sound of our loud V8s here. So,
yeah, and speaking of the sound of it, it's actually not that bad in the cabin, but let's go in there and put you in the point of view of where you're gonna be sitting when you spend most of your time with this car.
Good point. Now we're in the interior. I feel like I was just in this thing, racing it at the track. I love this car.
Yep.
I love this car. We've got our Alcantara steering wheel, these amazing Recaro seats that are leather and Alcantara, plus they have the ZL1 badge in the center. Not to mention the red accents in this thing. We've got the seat belts, the door cards, the knee panels here, the stitching on the shifter. It's everywhere. The red is everywhere, and what does that mean?
Red is performance.
Red is performance. It's the insignia of it being a race car.
Also, you know, you have a lot of cool features that a lot of new cars have, but even as a performance like track car, it's got like this lighting that you can change colors in. Yeah. And it's a comfortable car. It's like pretty luxurious for a Chevrolet American car. These Recaro seats are way above what a normal Camaro would get you in the seating department. And that shows when you're out on track. This car, you're not sliding around in this thing.
I didn't once think about I need to be more fitted into my seat. Like, this thing hugs you. Yeah. You can take it around turns at, you know, very high speeds, and these Recaros hug you, you know, and Recaro is the tried and true legendary brand that most manufacturers are using and most people are putting in their race cars in the aftermarket. So that's a true sign of their quality and safety standards, you know. You've also got this rear view mirror here that it might just look like a normal rear view mirror. However, this actually is a screen that displays what the camera on top of the antenna shows. So that's gonna lead into this, and that allows you to have a digital rear view mirror, and your visibility is not compromised because of that. Another thing I must mention is this car, this track-bred Camaro ZL1, has what's called PDR. It's got multiple cameras built into it around the car, and within the infotainment here, you can go in, you can pop in a memory card down here and press record, and what that's gonna do is it's gonna give you all of your track data, the telemetry, the speeds, everything that you would want, the G-forces, and it allows you to set the start and finish on the track. Then when you're done with your track day, you can pop this memory card out right here, put it in your computer and download all your track footage without ever having to set up an external camera.
This car just makes you want to be a better driver.
It does, and it's honestly setting you up to do that. Right. You know what I mean? You
can review your features that people usually pay big money for to add on to a car. They're built into this.
It's built in, and for good reason.
So that's pretty much it as far as interior features. Pretty straightforward, but a lot of cool things. Just like the rest of this car, it has everything you need.
It does. Guys, that about wraps up the Camaro ZL1 1LE, our 14th sweepstakes car ever. And if you want your chance to get behind the wheel of this beast and start taking it to tracks all around the world, tap that link below, head over to freedomstreetgarage.com, become a member. You can automatically get entries every month towards winning this car. Don't miss out, freedomstreetgarage.com, guys.